Thank you so much again for coming. I hope that this will be a really helpful counsel. I'm calling it a counsel because I am not here to teach or instruct in any way because I don't do a lot of ministering interviews. In fact, I do zero ministering interviews. And you guys are the ones that are in the thick of it. And we just wanted to give an opportunity for you to share with each other what your challenges are and maybe try and get some help or what's going really well, or a vision of it. Like I've said before, I think we need to, at least for a little while longer, we have a new norm. And that is one that utilizes technology and one that makes it so that we can continue to reach out and feel connected, even when we're not really connected. And like I said, that video that I sent you guys really just reminded me how important ministering interviews are to just a really society functioning well. And in my mind, if I were to ask a question that maybe that I think might be difficult, you guys may feel very different, but I noticed that from my ward, Kathy does a marvelous job sending out our newsletter. She's amazing. And in it, there's always a little section that says guilt-free ministering and a cute little quote or a little just inspiration or something like that. But as I looked at that and as I've talked with friends, not necessarily in our stake or other things, I've kind of got a little bit of a feedback that says ministering interviews could be heavy on the guilt for the ones being interviewed.
I made a rare exception.
And being able to inspire and uplift and teach and encourage without making them feel like they're in the principal's office or something like this, I think might be a little bit of a challenge or something to think through. And that might be, maybe you guys feel differently. So maybe we can just start off with what are your challenges in ministering interviews and possible solutions to those. And especially it could be before now, but I don't know if you guys have been kind of on pause a little bit during COVID. But if you've been able to start up, how have you been doing it? How are they going? What are the challenges? Anyone brave enough to speak up?
Melanie, before we started quarantining, my biggest challenge was getting them to come to a ministering interview. So, it was always trying to schedule it and work around it and trying to get both partners together at the same time. So that was one challenge we had. Those that aren't doing it, you talk about guilt, those that aren't even doing ministering won't even answer the phone or a request to come to a meeting. But the others that are doing it, it's hard for them to want to take the time to sit down and talk about their sisters. And so since we've been quarantined, we're still doing our ministering interviews, but I'm getting a better response out of email, which is not the best way to do it. I mean, when you could do it on a phone would be better, but for some reason, email seems to be less scary, less intrusive. I'm not sure, but maybe part of it is because it is at their pleasure. They don't have to. They're not on the spot right now. They can stop and answer when it's convenient, or maybe it reminds them, oh, hey, I haven't talked to such and such. Maybe I'll hurry up and do that before I talk to Lynn. So I've had better response over email than I've ever had in the whole year I've been Relief Study President. So, I mean, that's for what it's worth. It's been
Very
my experience.
And can I ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. That's great that you're getting response from email. Is there much of a conversation? Is it more of a kind of a, I did it, or just, I don't know, kind of.
I do have some that say, yes, I've reached out to them, but for the most part, they seem to understand the spirit of it, and they tell me what the status is, what's going on at home. Because I do ask those questions, how are things going? And are there any needs we need to be aware of, and so forth. But some of them, for the most part, they do elaborate pretty well. And then where I feel like I need to, I reply back with a couple, 2, 3 questions, and some we get a good dialogue going back and forth. Some I'm texting back and forth. I've got a couple of sisters that have some heavy needs, and they're ministering sisters, and I spend a lot of time texting back and forth. So those are outside of the email that we do, but they just don't seem to like the one-on-one.
Anyone else have the same experience? Or something similar or not?
I've been calling mine, just calling, and that's worked really well. I usually get them all, or they'll call me back even, which I was surprised they call me back. But I've been pretty successful. I did it, just this month and got everybody pretty much. I don't know that they're necessarily, other than just what they hear on Facebook, that their families are, I don't know if they're necessarily really checking in on their families, because most everything they tell me I know from myself, from just the Facebook posts from our ward and stuff.
Oh,
So
good point.
but there are people that, there are sisters that do check in and do a good job, and then there's others that you can just tell they haven't. But I talk to them and ask how they're doing. We have a good conversation about how they're doing as a family.
And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's always one of the side benefits of being able to do the ministry interviews. It's kind of a 2-for-1, or, getting both of them and those that they minister to.
But I haven't done them together.
Okay. That was my next question. Have you ever tried a conference call where you add another one in? And
My husband, they do that with the elders quorum. The elders quorum sets up the appointments, and they call, and they get 2 on the phone, and they do the double whatever, and it seems to work. But I haven't done it, no.
When I send my emails out, I'm sending them to both everybody in the companionship.
Yeah, and I call everybody too, but they don't talk together. We don't get them on the same line.
My challenge is over the phone. I just feel like maybe it's just me. I have a hard time connecting over the phone, getting like the real, I think it's just probably a learned skill for me. I'll get better at it, but I'm just, it's a little struggle for me to really get the feeling that I want to get, about how the ministering is going and that companionship. So just work on it. I don't know. That's my struggle.
that's very real. You lose a lot when you can't see someone.
Mhm.
You've heard that the physical, the body language can be, more than the words, and even tone of voice. It's a really big difference. So you do lose a big chunk. You lose a big chunk with everything, with
Every degree of separation.
yes, every degree of separation. That's perfect. Vicki, have you tried, or has anyone tried doing video ministering interviews?
I'm planning on doing it, but a lot of the sisters that are in my group that I call, probably the majority of them wouldn't be able to deal with that, technology wise. We have an older ward. Some of them are just not in that zone of technology. So yeah, I think that I'm probably going to go more to knocking on the door and having that porch visit maybe, so I can see them.
That works better for me because I don't get the response like texting and calling. Sometimes they don't respond. Well, some people they just don't respond that way. And so it's almost like I need to do the personal visits. And I think it's been wonderful having mothers and daughters because you can see both of them at the same time generally. And feel, how they're doing, and how the girls are learning about ministering to their neighbors through their mothers. You know, it's a wonderful experience.
And that's great. And I'd love to talk about mother-daughter companionships kind of in a second too. Unless someone else has something that they want to piggyback off that right now. But what other challenges, any other comments about, or things that have worked as far as conducting the interviews right now? And do you feel like the video would be a solution in your ward? I mean, I think Vicki, I think the whole stake has a more majority older population. That this is, everyone feels that one.
Yeah.
And even with me kind of doing a lot of technology, I feel like I'm not perfect, but pretty savvy. And it's still a panic kind of moment of, you know, did I get this right? Did I get the right link? Where is it again? You know, and my audio and whatever. And so it can be definitely challenging. Do you guys feel like that's a route that's worth pursuing? And if so, what would be needed to make that work? And is it worth it?
Well, I can tell you, you know, we would be either or in our ward. There are definitely a fair amount of sisters where the Zoom technology will work and they probably aren't going to need any help. And then we have the other half where if I was going to work, I'd have to go into their house and set them up on Zoom and then teach them how to use it. So I might as well just conduct the interview in person. I like the idea of going to their houses and standing on their porches. So, you know, it's kind of I guess the ones you can, and then take care of the other ones you can't. I mean, I have great, like I said, even with these ones that I can't get them to get on Zoom, they still respond to emails. I mean, there's very few of my sisters that don't have email, which is nice for me. So, you know, I need to focus on those that can do it through Zoom and be better at doing that. And then just rather than blanket everybody with an email or a phone call.
Do you think there'd be lasting benefits to training the sisters? I'm just exploring here, to make them a little bit more technology savvy, or do you think it's something that's a little bit like, you know what, we just do with what works for everyone, and that's a lot better as far as the other, it might be a lot of wasted effort and frustration.
Well, I'm just going to comment. I'm not talking about doing the ministering, but in our ward, we've been doing Zoom Relief Society since April, April. And so we've done training in people's homes so they could get on and everything. But we have a lot of sisters who are young mothers and doing other things, and they have so many Zoom meetings, they don't want to get on Zoom to come to Relief Society. And so I'm thinking they won't respond that way to the ministering interviews as well, just because they're saturated with that, you know. And it's one more meeting, one more thing on Zoom. And I don't want to be negative. I'm just telling you what I've heard from my ward, from my sisters.
I know.
Perfect.
I know.
No, I feel the same way too.
Yeah, it's too hard sometimes. And when you think about it specifically for the seniors, so that's always I talk for Sister Melanie. And my worry about the seniors, you know, because most of the time them look like me, don't like too much technology or don't know to use the technology. And that's too hard. I have a hard time for phone, it's fine. Email, not much. I'm used to it now because Sister Melanie all the time she's sending mail from us, and for have the meeting all the time. But before, I never check my mails. But now I'm a little bit better. But I think about it this week, and maybe you can maybe for call phone or for email or something, but some people don't attend, maybe in a Facebook page, in a message, because you can click, and then I think you use it better, and you can see the person, because I do that in Brazil with my family. I don't know, maybe you need to try another ways that people have a more facility to do it and feel more comfortable. I don't know not about Zoom. I just learned it almost just three weeks ago, because Sister Melanie tried to help me and figure out the Zoom. Because the Zoom or Google Video or something like that, the last weekend we fail, right? Because it don't work. But it's too hard. It's too hard to me. I think it's more hard for other people too. I understand. It's too hard for have a connection for right now. You can see in a person, but I look like Sister Vicky. I love to go in a porch and see in a person, but I know it's too hard. You can see, you can hold, you can hug, kiss sometimes. That's too hard. But you need to try your best, all right?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Nikki, Winks, did you have anything else you wanted to say about your experience?
I don't remember what I was going to say. It's one of those days I don't remember. I think so. Last month or last quarter, we all tried to make phone calls or text or email. And I've heard from some sisters like, oh, like Leanne called me. And I'm like, yeah, we're trying to do some just checking in and seeing how you're ministering and everyone's doing. Oh, so I guess I should call her back. Yeah, that's kind of why we call. Or I think too, we have a lot of sisters, just like, I don't remember who was talking, but that they are busy. They're busy with their kids, especially now that school's coming up, and they don't want that just another thing to do. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what's hard.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Leanne as your secretary. How's it going do most of you have ministering secretaries? Actually, I think all of you do.
We have 3. Each one of my counselors and I have one.
Mm-hmm. And what are successes there on using your secretaries?
Well, before this hit, it was great. But to be honest with you, I haven't needed my secretary since this started, because I've been emailing, and there's no sense in setting an appointment to send an email. I know, just to throw on this out there as an idea, and I haven't experienced it yet, but I guess the state presidency is doing temple recommend interviews using FaceTime. Yeah. So if you have an iOS device, you could FaceTime rather than set up a Zoom meeting. So, that's limited, but it's still a face-to-face option. Mm-hmm. I know you asked a question about how our sisters feel about technology, and we have a handful of the elderly sisters that want to learn about technology, and they just want somebody who will come show them and then be available to them when they can't figure it out, like they get stuck on a thing. And so we've been really trying to accommodate them as they've called and asked for help, so that they don't feel like they're being a problem or interrupting us or being a burden. And I mean, there's one sister that Dave and I have been over to her house 2-3 times, and another one I run down the street at least once a month when she tries to get online and pay her tithing. And it seems to be the same issue over and over again. But I think if there was just, maybe this is something the youth would be good at, when we can ever get people back together, is to help them kind of mentor the older sisters and brothers in the ward. So that's more of a long-term solution, but we're finding that if they've got somebody they can call and rely on, they're more apt to venture out and try it, rather than just get frustrated and give up.
Yeah.
I love that you do that. And it seems like that would benefit their life more than just Past Relief Society,
Right.
whether it's connecting with other family
Well,
or,
and it's getting on the church websites, and it's, I mean, all the things that technology brings to the table.
Mhm. And I think maybe I mentioned this idea before, but maybe it's even worth calling someone. Maybe that doesn't fit in your ward or something, but it could be a Relief Society calling to be the Relief Society technology help. I don't know.
It's an idea.
We'd be way too busy in our ward. Way, way, way.
Call 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's just, I'm just truly just exploring. Any other thoughts about ministering secretaries and how to utilize them? Or, is that working well? How much does it help you? I found that you kind of have to be a little bit more on the ball. Unless you set up some kind of system, sometimes it's harder to contact someone else for you. And especially Lynn with the email, that certainly isn't needed. But any thoughts of what's worked well or challenges there?
Our secretary, if we give her a list of our sisters and times that we're available, and she does all the contacting, and that's been so helpful, very, very helpful. Saved us a lot of time trying to set those up, and we appreciate her effort so much. Yeah.
So here's what we do in our ward. Like I said, each one of us has our own ministering secretary, and Rose can speak to how she works with her secretary, but my secretary knows that I have standing times, like before church and after church. And because I don't have to come home, I don't have kids to feed, I don't have kids to get ready to go to church. So I have the luxury of being able to say, okay, I'm going to be there, 20 minutes before the meeting, and I'll stay for 45 minutes after the meeting. And Shanlon Vasquez is my secretary, and she has the list of sisters in my district, and she just starts dialing until she can get me appointments for before and after church. And she's keeping track of who I'm seeing.
Oh, that's nice.
So, like that was working great until we had to come home.
That sounds like a beautiful system. Anyone else want to volunteer how it's going?
We do ours on a Google Sheet. So she makes the appointments and puts pending or confirmed or whatever, and then we mark that we actually talked to that sister. So she keeps track of that. It's kind of a Google Sheet that everybody can see and look at. So that works really well.
So she tracks it all for you, but she doesn't necessarily schedule the appointment.
No, she does.
Oh, okay.
But you can see that she's called and she's set up the appointments because we have standing times. So she calls and set up the appointment, and if she doesn't hear back from him, she puts pending and confirmed, and then we just mark that we actually talked to him or that we actually interviewed with them. So that works too. That worked well before all this started.
That's great too, because then there's some peer pressure to see like, oh, everyone's got theirs done, or they can see if I haven't got mine done, I better get it done. That's great. Okay, anyone want to ask anything about ministering or about their secretaries?
Maybe we ought to give people a choice of what way they would rather be interviewed.
Oh,
A good question.
Crazy time.
Mm-hmm.
Phone call, email, or Zoom, or FaceTime.
Or in person. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
I like that.
So we actually did that before when I was in the Relief Society. We kind of did, we did a survey where the sisters could fill out how they wanted us to contact them. So then, so it's I think that's a good way to, and better way, because like you said, some sisters respond good to email, some it's text, some it's more that face-to-face. So I think that's a good way to figure that what's going to work best, especially right now with everyone's situation.
Yep.
Good. That's very good. Melanie, would you mind resending the videos and things? I don't know what happened to the one that you sent out. I started to view it at one point, but it's kind of disappeared from my inbox, and so I'd appreciate it if you could resend that with the interviews and the things on it.
So the one that I sent you just a few minutes before this meeting, I just resent out. Did you use that link?
I used the link, yes, just now.
So in the history of it, it has all the little, if you just scroll down through it, it'll have, it should.
Okay.
If it doesn't, let me know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And there are so many videos on ministering. And the ministering interviews that, if you'll remember, I don't know, a year ago or so, we did a little training on ministering interviews and watched those little clips. Those are still online. For some reason, it's hard for me to navigate sometimes through things. Sometimes I find something and it's hard for me to find it again on the website. But I'm very happy to send out those links. How do you have you guys found some good questions or good ways to inspire and uplift and help the sisters do a better job at ministering wherever they're at, if they're just barely kind of hanging on ministering, or if they're really amazing ministering sisters? Have you found ways to be able to just kind of certain questions that you ask or something that help inspire the vision? Or I guess I'm asking this question because I was talking to a bishop a little while ago, and he said that he always asks at the end of an interview or somewhere there, he just always says, "Is there more?" And he says there is always more.
Oh.
And that question for him has changed his bishop interviews. And I know it's not the same as ministering interviews, but it made me think, I wonder if there are questions that help not inspire guilt, but help them feel better. Like, or if you remember, one of the little videos was the elders quorum, and the other guy feeling like, oh, I haven't done anything. I don't know any, I don't know any. And he's like, well, can you learn their names? He's like, yeah, I can do that. And he's like, yeah, that's fabulous. And he's really excited and inspiring them, kind of something like that help. Anyway, have you found any success with any questions or thoughts that way?
Well, I can share my experience. I think somehow ministering interviews for me became same thing as ministering in one way. I would feel uncomfortable going and even use that word, hey, I'm contacting you because I want to interview you about your interviews. And so if I go from that perspective, to me, it became a way of ministering. So I don't want to say that I want to set the example, but maybe I'm trying to reach out to them in a way that maybe they could have reached out to their sisters. And literally I've been worried that everybody's too quiet. Not really a concern has came back. So sometimes I will text Lynn and say, Lynn, is everybody really quiet with you too, or is it just me? And at first I had that anxiety, let's call that, but then when I start checking on them, and then I went to see, it was almost naturally that they start talking about their sisters, because to be honest, I think I spend more time on them. And they were like, oh yeah, but my sisters, and then they brought it up. I think that worked for me. And for me, it works a lot, text message and messenger. And when I send a picture, there's some pictures out there that they are hilarious. Like there is one that is my favorite. and I guess I can send to Melanie. She can send to you guys.
Mhm.
It's a chicken with the hair like everywhere, kind of like saying, "How are you?" And it looks like the chicken is almost dead. Have you seen that picture?
No.
No. You should Google. Put a chicken crazy, or like they even use the word that says "good morning," and the chicken is all like crazy. I got a lot of response on that one. I sent the picture and it said, "How are you doing?" And they're just like thought it was hilarious. So like just breaking the ice. There was another one that was a mom, and she was like sitting on a bar stool, and it was chaos everywhere. Kids running, dogs, and the kitchen was a mess, and the fridge was open, and the husband was going by in shorts. And I sent it to them. It opened up the conversation, and they brought it up. Oh yeah, but hey, I'm checking on my sisters. Then I would go and say, okay, how are you doing that? And they're like, oh, I'm calling them, I'm bringing them treats and all of that. So those funny pictures kind of like broke the ice a little bit for me. And like everybody said, I have a few, maybe like around 5 or 6 that I call. And even if I just leave a message or the other day, I just realized that this whole time since March, I was texting the husband. He didn't say anything. And she wasn't replying. So I don't know if she got the message, but like she just said, I finally got her on a phone call. And she's like, oh, Rose, by the way, you've been texting my husband. And I was like, wow, sorry about that. And then I texted him back and say, hey, this is the last one. Sorry. But I couldn't get a hold of her because the number, she's not like social media active, and the number on the church LDS tools was the husband's number. And then we actually talked about syncing again, and I don't think the sisters are syncing too often. So I don't know. I literally just decided to go on that approach, and still obviously not 100%, but I feel like I think they felt that I needed to that this is like I love it. I love to reach out to somebody. So some of them would talk to me for an hour and a half, and I need to say, yeah, we really need to hang up now because it's been an hour and a half.
It's easy to do, Rose, to talk to her that long.
You do know, right, Lynn?
Yeah.
And it ended up that it helped me like it's not that I tried every other week, but almost like every other week I would send a text or a picture or a call, and I wouldn't receive an answer all the time, but to me it doesn't matter. So when I go like put in the check mark and I see, oh my gosh, I contacted them July, August, September in my thoughts, it really doesn't matter because I can kind of like tell how they are doing, because if you're not good, how are you gonna help others? So for whatever reason, seems like this time has opened up a door to get to know the ones that I'm interviewing, and hopefully when we come out of this, we are gonna be even more friends that they are. It's not really an interview. It's like a, get to know, I trust you. And then I love it when they bring it up, what they're doing with their sisters. If they are really going through anxiety and depression, how are we going to bring it up? Like, so are you helping others?
Wonderful, Rose. Thank you. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I think that that she hit it on the head there. That I feel like the interview should be more about the person you're interviewing than about the people that they're ministering to. Because I feel like the Lord needs us to learn to minister in the way that He does. And so this is a chance for us as ministering sisters to learn how to minister. And, you know, we might be really feeble at it and not great at it, but as we talk with these sisters, we can help them and guide them to learn how to minister. And so how their sisters are doing is kind of secondary. We do need that information, but I feel like more important information is how that ministering sister is doing.
I was gonna mention one more thing that Lynn always reminds us is like our ward at least is trying to find out who needs the sacrament. And that is not like how your interview is going, but like, hey, do you know if anyone is in need of the sacrament? So I love that because we can like right now, maybe the sacrament is the ordinance that we can still provide if someone needs, since the temple are closed. So I love how Lynn and the bishopric and our ward kind of like talks about what is the ordinance that sister needs. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, another question that I had was, what can we do to solidify the vision of ministering in the hearts of your sisters? Maybe that's partly already answered by just the comments here of when they feel ministered into in love, when you've done that for them and they know how to, they're better able to do that to others. Any other thoughts there or success stories at all?
So I will share, Melanie. So it's probably it was last week, my neighbor across the street who I minister to, she is a member, but her family, none of them are members and they're not active. And they found through a checkup with their daughter that she had a tumor in her liver. And right away, they immediately said it was cancer. So they rushed her up to primary, and my dear neighbor was faced with, what am I gonna do? What do I do about my daughter? And just, you know, and I was gone out of town, so I wasn't like right here, but I immediately called her and I said, we are here. I'm like, I can find a way to get someone to go give her a blessing. I'm like, but I can also pray for you. And as a family, my extended family, we prayed and fasted. And today we got the final news that it is not cancer.
Okay.
Oh,
And
that's
and I think that sometimes, like, it's not the easiest to always offer what we know, what I know helps me through a trial, or what I know is going to help me get through it, right? But I just felt in my heart that if we fasted and prayed, and so when we got back in town, her husband said, I heard you guys fasted. And I said, we did. And he's like, thank you so much. And so I think there's just these things that, you know, sometimes there's this big, huge, life-changing thing that's occurring in these sisters' lives that we're ministering through. And sometimes it's just as simple as every day, hi, how are you? But I think we just have to remember to always offer the service of prayer, whether the testimony is there or I don't know if I'm making any sense, but anyways, it was just a wonderful experience in a way that I could minister to her and to her family in the only way I knew how, which was praying to my Heavenly Father to help them. So that was my experience this last week, which was just absolutely wonderful. And then to get that news today, I think me and my daughter were like jumping for joy. We were just so happy. So
it's so interesting because I saw the videos before the training, I think 1 year ago, and then Melanie sent to us again. And when the guy feel guilty about his don't did well for the ministry and go visit and don't know the names, nothing, I observed something. The bishop, he's just show his love and the ministry to him, the guy. Because when do you show your love, your patience, you know, about somebody else, and if you, oh, I think I don't did well, and you know, and when you show that for them, encourage them that then he did it for the guy, and he's tried his best, and for bringing more news for the bishop for the interview with him. And I think that's the good way, and that Heather said, and stop and ask and try to pray. And what the guy said, so you can pray together for your family, for you know better the family. So when you work together, the both hands, the both side, and pray or fasting or message just for encourage them and for do it, and that's the best way the Lord wanna us, and for keep more efficacy, you know, for keep more best for the both side, and people don't feeling guilt so much, and for then don't finish your job, all right? And I think the always I said the love, they express your patience and express your, you know, and example, or work together, pray or fast. That's the good way for give the points for the people. Try to do your best.
Thank you, Fabiana. What you were saying reminded me that, you know, about good questions to ask to help them to, you know, are you praying? You know, I think is fabulous. And I think like everything in the church recently is pulling away from the leadership handling everything and moving down to every person individually being connected to God and fulfilling their stewardship that way. You know, President Nelson is just over and over, hear him. This is the church is not going to tell us when there's most likely the church is not going to tell us every little detail of how to survive in these last days events. You know, they haven't told us exactly what to do about Corona. They you know, encouraged us to wear masks. They haven't told us how to handle our finances or exactly what to do, whatever it is. They're telling us to go straight to God and to get our own answers. And I'm wondering if we can do the same thing in our ministry interviews. Like I was reminded of, I think somebody had told me about this question about maybe asking them something like, how have you felt God directing you in ministering? And, you know, the power of that question perhaps might be, first of all, oh, am I praying for direction in ministering? Am I not only just praying, please bless them, but please bless me to know what I need to do, how to serve. And can sometimes then help asking the question can have them sit, you know, think and go, oh, actually, I think God did direct me in, you know, with maybe Heather's example in reaching out and knowing what to say there and knowing what to offer. And so then that solidifies, oh, God can help me. And it worked that time. And I can try this again. I've got confidence moving forward. And it doesn't, I think sometimes in years past, there's been a little bit more, maybe sometimes feelings of like, oh, a visiting teacher finds out the information, passes it on to the Relief Society president, the Relief Society president solves it. You know, but this is, I'm the one who's supposed to solve it. I'm not just passing on for someone else, some organization, so in their structure to do this. What's God telling me to do? And so kind of this question, how have you felt God direct you in your ministering? Is some, I'm, you know, any other ideas or questions that way that helps inspire their ability and their vision to follow through with this? There's going to be more needs to come. I certainly feel. I think August is our peaceful month in this year. maybe January and February, and now a little bit of August. I think there's more to come. I think with the election, we're going to have more upheaval in our nation. We're going to have more natural disasters in other places, or maybe here, whatever. And this idea of like, I'm reaching out, I'm going to be able to minister, I think will be a key component in the future.
You know, Melanie, I think I relate a lot to missionary work, like how when the missionaries, they wake up and they pray for God to bless them throughout their day. And it reminds me what you're saying about preach my gospel. I think sometimes we forget, oh, they're members. We don't need to use those, let's say like the clue questions, right? But sometimes when you see like on social media, if you have the Spirit, like the Spirit will tell you, like, so there's this person that she really doesn't open up, like she doesn't talk much, but she posts everything on social media. Of course, Lee knows everybody, so she knows what I'm talking about. Everything is on social media. Well, then one day, I remember that I had, my husband had surgery, and he had shoulder surgery, and I didn't know how to put everything on him, and we were lost. And then I reached out to Lynn. I'm like, is there any nurse in the ward? Like, because I'm new to the ward. And I don't think that was a coincidence that Lynn gave me like maybe 6 names. But we kind of like agreed on one person, and she said, start from the bottom to the, from the top to the, anyway. It was this person's husband that came to help me with my husband. And right after, she jumped in and she said, hey, did my husband help your husband? I was like, yeah, but hey, then we start talking. And then I was so grateful. Anyone would say, hey, that was just a coincidence. But to me, now we are like talking almost every day. She opens up and she shares a little bit about her story. And now we are also doing, I don't know if you guys follow Glenn Ross. He shares a lot of historical things. Well, he likes to read stories about the history of the church, and we share that how can I say, enjoyable moment. So we always talk about the last fireside. So there's like one on Sundays and one on Thursdays. So she's always like, I wake up Friday morning and she's like, hey, did you hear that? So I think if we go back to the concept of how the missionaries do too, wake up and pray for it, God's going to put in our hands, right? Like President Monson always said, have I done any good in the world today? And we say, you know what, God, just put somebody in front of me. And even if it's to help you, but that has, I know that was definitely a way that God used my need for her husband to help my husband for me to get in contact with her. So it's all linked. It's always spiritual. It's always spiritual,
Yeah, always I said, when you have a connection with the Holy Ghost, always he wanna tell something for us or for somebody else come to help you, right? So I trust so much in that because I have a lot of experience too. So I have one name too this week, and it come in my mind so much strong, in my mind. You need to go, you need to go, you need to go. And the sister Melanie say, Fabi, you need to be controlled because you can go. Because you're the presidency, Fabi. I told her, now I just needed to be Fabi, no the second counselor, from the stake. I said to her, it's more strong than me. And I just baked something. She's really love it, Brazilian cheese ball. And it take Manuela for the piano lesson and say, I need to stop the house. So do you hear in your voice, in your ear, too much strong the whole week. And I stopped out there. She's sick. She's sick, and I'm so glad I knocked the door. I just keep in the porch door. And it just gave the stuff for the kids. And the kids said, my mom's sick, Fabi. It's so, oh my goodness. So have something I can help you or guys? And no, Fabi, you can't. It's okay anyway, but I can call her later when she can accept the call. She's feeling better, but she's sick, and sometimes the Lord provide a way you don't understand, but we need to try feeling the Spirit for make friendship look like Rosie, and for that lady, I know she, and
This is not fair. There's like some people here from my ward. This is just
yeah. Yeah, but you know, and that's I may feel so thankful for obey the Spirit, and it tell me something need to go the whole week. I have her name in my mind all the time, and she's keep at home for 2 weeks. She can go, she can get out, nothing. And I just feeling, and my husband said, "You want to give away?" And all my tears because I always he said, "You give all the way." When you bake Sundays, no, honey, I need to go, but I want to left something for you. Don't worry. And so maybe she don't want to eat because she don't feel well, but maybe she can eat later. But just the point, I mean, went out there, knock the door, and for know what is happening, that's make more, she's feeling important. You know, she's feeling somebody else think about me, and the Spirit told you for she's coming here, you know, and for have that connection that Rose said, and make more friendship, more trust each other. You know, if you have some problem, you can share your experience. That Rose said for her, the lady, and share more experience with her for her life. And sometimes the people wanted to say something, but sometimes scary, you know. But when you started the relationship, the friendship, and each others, that make more sense for you share more your feeling, share more your fears in your heart. So I know I did it wrong, but I did it. Sorry.
Beautiful, Fabiana. Thank you.
It's so hard. It's so hard for you have a control sometimes for when you hear the Spirit to talk to you, you know, and you don't obey. Because if I don't do it, I feeling so worst, you know, in my heart. So I prefer wrong than make a mistake. I don't meet her and know something about her, you know. And that's my feeling.
Thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful. I don't want to keep you guys, you know, past an hour. Is there any other last minute thoughts or questions or just things you want to share?
A question that I kind of wrote down earlier this week, and I just found it, is how do you feel you go out and you are doing your ministering? And I think that question could be a little insightful. If they don't have a good experience, well, why are they not having a good experience? Are they struggling with their testimony? Are they, maybe the companionship isn't very, you know, isn't quite right? There's an issue there. I don't know. There could be a lot of reasons. Or if it, you know, if they say, I like it, it always makes me feel good. That's a way to help them realize that when they're feeling down, as we all are at this time. I mean, this is a difficult time right now for a lot of people.
Yes.
That it's a reminder that when they are out serving, it can lift them and feel better. So.
That's an excellent question. Excellent. I wrote that one down. That is beautiful. Very telling, very inspiring.
I love all the questions you guys have given me. Such great things to think about.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I hope that this was time well spent for you. Sorry. It's my alarm to go pick up my daughter. And that you will continue to be inspired. I have so much confidence in each of you. And I know that behind the scenes, we see where we're failing, or we see what's hard for us, or where we want to be is different than what we're actually doing, or, all of that. But from where I sit, I see marvelousness. I see competency. I see diversity of talents. I see that everyone brings something beautiful, and that I firmly believe that you were all called for a reason, and that what you have to give, especially combined with your best effort and the Holy Ghost and God's help, is definitely enough. And that He will uplift you and bless you. And I hope that as you look back on this life, that you'll find it.
Really?
That there's so many blessings that have come through your service, to you and to others, and that God can let you see that and how important you each are. Thank you. Thank you for all that you give.